Okay, everyone. In our really slick kind of electronic capacity with the internet, we're going to have another go. So here we are on Isle Martin. I wish I could turn the camera around and show everybody who's not here. But it's been an amazing day. It's been a very long day. We've had quite a lot of rain. On a scale of 1 to 10, probably 6.
11.
So people have come over on the boats, many boats coming back and forth, and incredibly we have got at least 20 plus people in the room with us, but we have had over 100 people and doing lots of different things, and even doing a seaweed identification on another beach on the other side of the island, and they walked against the westerly winds, which was pretty impressive in a day like this. We've had lots of discussion. The one thing, hang on a minute, I'm Julia Barton. And I've been organising the Seaweed Festival here on Isle Martin, which is amazingly the first one in Scotland. And it's been a really great day, lots of discussions. So we're just continuing it on this afternoon. And this afternoon's theme is going to be about the sustainability of seaweed and farming it. Unfortunately, earlier on, we were supposed to be joined by a freediver and somebody setting up a seaweed farm, and we wanted that to be our discussion. We've got quite a few people who are interested attending the festival who actually want to set up and are thinking about seaweed farms. So we've got kind of those sort of questions in the room. If anybody online wants to ask questions, please put it in the chat box. So alongside me, I have got John McIntyre, who is a scientist and an ecologist, and has given an amazing talk today about the importance of seaweed within the whole world's ecosystem. No mean feat. Thank you. So John is also a board member of the Isle Martin Trust, and the Isle Martin Trust is the island itself is a community-owned island, and he's on the board. So we're thinking about new ideas, and one of the ideas that's comes up recently is maybe we could have an experimental community seaweed farm here. Got Ailsa McLennan, who also gave an amazing talk this morning from, well, I won't say, should I say? RCs. Yeah, RCs. No, I didn't know whether you wanted to change your hats. Who is a marine scientist and lives nearby and has been very much involved with kind of like the whole protection of our marine protected areas, and is very passionate about that, which is fantastic. But also at one point got within a nano measurement of setting up a seaweed farm. So she has done much more research than any of us here on the boards, here on the table. So we're just going to, if anybody wants to ask a question about setting a seaweed farm up, we're going to throw it open. We've also got John McLeod from over on Lewis, who set up a loose group of people, various different interests. SW Grow, so we'll get him to say a little bit about that. And in the audience, we have Alexis with a group of friends who, based in Glasgow, are also looking into setting up small seaweed farms. So, we have quite a few. So I'm hoping we can open it out, because my knowledge of seaweed farms is quite small. Right. Ailsa?
I can tell you all what I did.
Yeah.
And why it failed. So I wanted to set up a seaweed farm because at the time I was running an oyster farm with my husband, and I'm a vegetarian, and at that time there was a lot of people trying to farm seaweed, getting in touch with folk through the shellfish industry press, because they were looking for mussel farmers to hang seaweed ropes on. So I was like, well, I want a bit of that, even though we've got trestles. So it just started looking to farm it. So I got the permissions from the Crown Estate for a test site off Isle Martin. And because it was a test site, I got quite a lot of funding from Sarah Lamb. Is she going away? From our fisheries
No,
local
she's here.
action group.
Yay.
Thank you, even though I failed. And I went to the marine lab in Oban and learnt how to get the types of kelp that I wanted to spawn onto lines, which I would have then hung on the farm to do it. So what halted my plans was the kelp dredging thing just happened and took up 6 months of my life, basically all consuming, and made me quite ill. And then I had personal flux in my private life, and I know this is TMI, I'm just seeing this as a kind of open counselling session. Then my dog died. No. And then I realised I'd put in for the funding, I hadn't considered my own time as a cost. I just thought, I'll get one of the fishermen I know to come and help pull up the lines to do the tests and stuff. But if you're getting funding, you can't just get your fisherman pal to do it. You need a properly graded workboat. So this was a whole cost that I hadn't considered. And then the whole thing at the end of the day is, what am I going to do with tons of wet seaweed on the west coast of Scotland? Because that's the expensive bit. Given climate change, we don't want to be driving around tons and tons of wet seaweed to get processed. So looking at the green wave model in America, the best thing to do would be if communities can work together and there's somehow some sort of processing central point. But if you don't do that, it's awfully expensive for the individual to deal with their seaweeds, depending on what you're doing with it. If I was just doing it to do food in packets, it would have been fine. But if you're looking at it from an environmental point of view of wanting to replace soil conditioners or do plastic replacement, you're going to have to grow quite a lot of it and deal with that on your own. So that's what stopped me, and I would just like seaweed farming to start, but to remain within communities and not become like salmon farming, which started that way, but then was then taken over by huge multinationals. So that's my only experience when it came to a brick wall.
No, that's really interesting. But you did actually set up selling it locally, didn't you?
I was selling the wild forage stuff.
Yeah.
And I could say that the stuff that I picked from a mussel farm was way better quality than the stuff that was growing on the rocks. It was much more tender and easy to deal with and cleaner, just because it wasn't there getting beaten against other stuff, and there's less grazing creatures on the mussel farm. So I can see that farmed seaweed is better for human food.
I was just wondering also, when you were saying obviously about you were investigating, I don't want you to give away any kind of product.
It's okay, I'm
so
open
details.
book.
Yeah, okay. I'm just interested here, obviously, because we're all interested in Al Martin, as to kind of which seaweeds you were thinking. I mean, were you thinking of the seaweeds here around our islands as, you know, to sell on to different production parts of the industry? Like, because I know we've got someone who's interested in bioplastics. I don't know whether she's still here. Oh, yeah. I mean, would you be selling it? Were you thinking that you could sell on to them? Or were you still thinking that you would kind of farm it and be selling it locally for kind of food?
I was proving a point really expensively to myself, was that you can do it. Why are we not doing it? Well, they're doing it everywhere else. Like Scotland, just get out there and do some seaweed farming. And so I hadn't actually, I think in my head I thought I'd do Alaria esculenta because that was the one that I was finding easiest to sell for people to eat. But that's not really, I wasn't wanting to go down the packets. If you want to do like biofuels, you should do sugar kelp.
Yeah.
And that doesn't like being as exposed as some
what
other
we've
ones.
got.
So it just depends what people are wanting to do.
Right.
And for the bioplastics, I think they take laminaria, but which would have grown great out there.
Yeah.
But Oceanium buy any amount of kelp from anyone that can give it to them. So there's a market for that. But again, you've got to get a way of moving this wet seaweed to them.
Yeah, because that was one of the kind of discussion points that we were having, wasn't it? The cost of that kind of outweighing the value back, which I know Alexis was saying about one of our people in the audience was saying that they want to set something up near Glasgow, but what are the available markets? And I think that added value question is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the big questions for us when we thought about the possibility of maybe thinking about having a farm was like, well, who's going to buy? What are they going to buy it for? How much are they going to need? How much are they going to have to produce to be able to like be actually profitable? make a difference for whoever's buying it. So I think those are like the biggest questions in terms of like is it possible or not. And also that's why it's interesting to like connect with other people and maybe think about like what you were saying, having a community of farmers and like having a much bigger batch of seaweed to be able to sell to someone like a bigger company, whoever's doing bioplastics or whatever it is.
Have you looked at the green wave stuff from America? Because it just seems a really good model of separate farmers but a central hub for processing.
Yes, obviously, but that's still experimenting.
But they've spread that right across America
Sure.
and beyond America now, so it must be working at some level. I'm not sure how much of it's glossy on the surface real, but it seems to be.
Can I ask what you did in terms of environmental business when you were applying for the Crown State or where they were?
There wasn't much. There's a big salmon farm there, so I was really. It was minimal. It was 2 lines of 70 metres. The only issue is it was against a cliff to stop fishing boats going through it. And I did write a bit about the environmental stuff, but they weren't that concerned. I mean, I think their main worry is shading of whatever's under it, but you can get around that if it's deep enough. So it didn't seem to be a factor that would have stopped me.
So your idea was for 7 lines?
No, it's just 2
Oh,
70
two.
metres. It was just
70
meant to be a
metres.
test site. John and I identified it one wet day.
Okay.
Good fun. No?
Yeah. Discovered just how wet the Isle Martin ferry is when the waves get
Yeah,
big.
it was hypothermic.
Okay. I've just been reminded that I need to repeat what everybody's saying because we haven't got a rolling mic. So sorry about that, Alexis. But it really was a bit like what I was saying at the introduction, isn't it? It's like how, can we get the value out of the amount of seaweed that we're selling to make it profitable to actually do the work, isn't it? That's what it's all about. We have been having on sale in the main tent some seaweed that from Loch Ewe, from Jackie. And I know on this very small kind of crofting, small scale industry, she's kind of just managing to kind of get by on that. But that's very much the dried seaweed for kind of culinary purposes. I don't know if anybody's tried it, but it is quite good. But very much like what yours was. But were you able to kind of even cover the costs with that?
Well, you can make a lot of money from dried seaweed, but I never really. I had 2 small kids and I was just looking for something flexible to fill my time, really. So I was not properly calculating how long it was taking me to dry it, which was really problematic, as you can imagine, sometimes. And John gave me a huge fan to go through my polytunnel, which would work on the first curtain of seaweed, but then I'd have to go to move everything around and then dry it. Sometimes it wasn't dry enough, I'd have to finish it in the oven so that I could grind it properly. And all of that took ages, and I'm not hygienic. I'm not a foodie. I'm not a foodie at all. And I had to get this lady from Island Council. She's like, "Where do the dogs go when you do it? Where does the pony go when you do it?" Oh, it's okay. Just do it down at the shed. Lie. But doing the packets was just a way for me to kind of educate myself on the different kinds, what was growing, see what farm. But I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at a process to change the world and replace plastic, then it's not dried seaweed in packets.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know whether you're thinking of going along those lines of actually drying it and making it smaller to add to food. Have you got that far? No. Okay.
Not really.
Okay.
We're just like at the stage of exploring options and what's out there, like what's possible and what's not possible.
It's an idea essentially in its early infancy where I guess we're just looking at all the elements of added value which are less sort of intrinsic to the seaweed itself and more marketable, sustainable ideas rather than sort of seaweed weight value.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I think Malt's got a project.
Are they growing it already?
I don't think they are, but they're
Wow.
investigating that as far as I know. They just get from companies.
There's a lot of wee farms beginning everywhere. I'm not actually sure what they're all doing with it.
But that's the community level.
Mm. Well, that's brilliant. We need them here. I mean, John, you must know. Do you know examples of people that are pulling it off?
Yeah, I think the Tari Seaweed in the Faroes, the seaweed farm there, are doing good things, working with the community. For example, if we're needing a renewable drying source, look at how those renewables could also benefit the small community that the seaweed is basically doing. So you're looking at it holistically rather than a single issue of commercial producing seaweed. So I think they're doing great things. But,
No one in Scotland that you've worked with?
no.
No.
No, but I don't think it's not reinventing the wheel, but
Yeah.
good examples out there like Tari.
I know this is really difficult for anybody listening online. I'm really sorry because we haven't got a roving mic. But we will try and put up the comments from John as well. Yeah. Okay. There's a few things actually. There's a question coming in from Carol. Thank you. Can you grow seaweed for human consumption in any seawater, anywhere, or does the water quality make a huge difference? And does it have to be tested before you can? So did we get it tested round Dalmartin?
Well, the water's tested here because of the oyster farm right there.
Okay.
So you always know what grade it is, but that's a shellfish grade. Do you know anything about this? And I don't know if it's applied to seaweed. I guess it would depend what you're doing with it. And it's not filter feeding, so... But they do check for E. coli when they do the water grade.
Okay.
So that would probably impact
Yeah.
food, I imagine.
But I mean, it is possible to get the water tested.
But then when I was picking it in the wild,
Yeah.
the shellfish standards didn't apply to what I took. They just wanted me to visually check for bird poo, which I did.
Okay, that's very good. I don't know if I can grab him, but Steve Husband, who is been doing our food here on the island, an amazing job with seaweed and seafood. Just the most amazing. I'll put up online some photographs. This incredible cafe that he's produced, and his food is even better. But Steve's interest and obsession is probably on a par with my own, and one of the things that he's doing is trying to devise a small-scale drying facility for crofters to dry seaweed, and it could dry hay and whatever else. I was just wondering if you would mind just saying a few words about your wonderful drying machine, which I have seen, and it's just incredible. Go on. It's a chance to promote this. Come on.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the compliments about the paella. Has everyone had some paella today?
Yay!
Well, you've all had quite a lot of seaweed that has been dried in this prototype dryer I'm working on. And I think you all enjoyed it. There's nobody been rushed off in an ambulance just yet, hopefully. So yes, the dryer I've been working on is it's as a result of lockdown. It's been very beneficial to me. And my first prototype was just using stuff I could find around my workshop. And I just thought, well, we've got the sun out there, and it was quite sunny in the first lockdown. And I need a little fan, and I'm just going to blow warm air that's been warmed by the sun, just blow it over the seaweed and dry it out. And that was successful. I was getting fresh seaweed off the beach, and it could be dry in good weather in 2 days. And then it took another lockdown for me to progress that idea. So now that we've got a super duper model, which is based on a tumble dryer, and that is really effective. So I'm developing that further. Right now I can fit about 10 kilos of wet seaweed into the dryer, and that can be kelp, it can be knotted rack, it can be sea lettuce. It dries all much at the same rate. And then by March next year, I have to produce a unit that will take 5 tons in one go. That's the theory.
So from 10 is
10
that
kilos to 5 tons.
10 kilos to 5 tons. Wow.
I've got some homework to do over the
so
winter.
Is anybody wanting to get involved in this? Give some.
Yeah, especially funders.
Yeah.
Funders.
We are looking for funders for so many projects.
Yeah, I do have funding from the Pebble Trust. Thank you very much, Pebble Trust. They're based over in Coolbokey, and they deal with small ideas that need a kickstart, and it's been fantastic. They've given me £5,000, and it's enabling us to produce another prototype, and so we can compare performances from two. We've got the old rotary dryer, and we can build a new dryer, and then we can modify flow rates, temperatures on the second dryer, and see how it improves the drying process. So yes, thank you very much, Pebble Trust. There are other people that I'm seeking funding from. There's been this little thing called the Seaweed Festival that's got in the way of doing homework lately, so I haven't done a lot. So it's exciting days for me, and there's lots of people who have come forward expressing interest in this product. There's nothing, it seems to be, from very small scale dehydrators for the kitchen until you get to enormous great industrial units that burn oil, or there's another one in North Uist that's biomass fired. But they're having to import biomass to North Uist now because they've cut down all the trees, which is a shame. But we're all subject to the sun every now and again. And if it dries a seaweed, why not use it? That's where we are.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. You might notice that we're itching a bit because we're being attacked by midges at the minute. So we might be donning our nets in a minute. I think quite a few people are. But one of the things, I know we've kind of caught you up in the Seaweed Festival at the minute, big time. But I'm hoping that by kind of networking and sharing, we can somehow kind of help you as well, and help lots of different people. So, like, we've got some people in the audience who are interested in setting
I'd like to meet you later on.
Yeah.
Possible.
And again, like, several people here, like I said, are thinking of, trying to do a trial, picking up where Ailsa left off, maybe, and just doing this experimental work on a very small scale. But it would kind of fit to what you're doing. That if we could raise the money for that, then we could have a dryer that would, So really, it's about passing that kind of information on. So that is just brilliant. Thank you. And one of the things I was talking to with Sarah Lamb, where she is that the immediate legacy of this Al Martin Seaweed Festival is that we're going to try and put up online like a pinboard, so that anybody who's got information to share, like Steve has about his dryer, and anybody who wants kind of advice from people who've got that kind of knowledge could actually pick it up from there, which would be fantastic. Okay, it's pretty much in there.
Yeah, and if it's okay, I better get back to the PAs. Thank you all.
Try and get hold of Steve later on, because he is.
Yeah, just come. You know where to find me.
Carrying on cooking. So.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words about your SW Growth project? Because I don't actually know enough about it.
Okay.
Would you? I don't know. Martin, have we got a roving mic?
I've got something we can try.
Oh, you can come here, John. Come. Okay, I'm inviting John to come.
Ridges over there, you could see.
I'm going to put the net on.
Did you say there were fewer midges?
That's what he said. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
say that. Did you notice that?
Yes.
I didn't say that at all. I like the mint though.
I think this may have to finish before
I think
too
so.
long. We're in
We'll
trouble
just
here.
hear from John very briefly about his project, and then we're going to give in to the midges.
Okay, I'm working on a project funded by the Northern Periphery and Arctic Programme. I'm an artist and curator working for the organisation Amlanta, based in Lewis. So we have 6 partner organisations across the North Atlantic region, from the Republic of Ireland to Greenland, Iceland, Faroes, Scotland and Sweden. So we're looking at how to support and grow the seaweed farming industry. and looking at aspects like next generation DNA sequencing, so we can actually map DNA profiles for 2 species at the moment, Palmaria palmata dulce and Alaria esculenta winged kelp. So DNA testing has been used in conjunction with branding of seaweed products, but generally what it does is just say that it's seaweed that you're eating, not cabbage. But in terms of DNA sequencing at this level, some seaweed species are particular to a whole region and others are particular, their DNA profile to one particular location. And also it's a good tool to prevent genetic pollution. So if people are actually creating seaweed farms and bringing spores from another region and then leaking those into the wild environment. One of the other things we're looking at is renewable drying facilities, possibly along the lines of small-scale olive oil farmers pooling resources by having a press nearby that several farms could use, which might be possible to replicate on west coast of Scotland. But also looking at intangible cultural heritage, what there is in the cultures of the region that we're working in that could illuminate maybe different uses of seaweeds, the properties that could be useful for scientific analysis. For example, carrageen, where I live, carrageen dessert is a popular and traditional dish, but it would often be bleached in the sun before being used. So like recording people's stories about that, was that just purely a cosmetic thing or did it improve the qualities of the carrageen? So we're doing a range of different things and also scientific analysis into the properties of species of seaweed, experiments with fermentation, and it's a zero asset project. So at the end of 3 years, we don't hold on to any of the data or infrastructure that we've made. So we're really just there to try and support and grow the seaweed farming industry.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. That's really wonderful, and I think that's the sort of context, that we could put up and share with yourselves. So thank you so much, and yeah, I'll put up your information. And I hope you can see, we are being smothered in midges, so I'm going to say that we'll call it a day there. But thank you for anyone watching, and thank you for everybody in the audience. I don't know how you survived the amount of rain that's been thrown at us, and now the midge attack, which is pretty big. So the temperature has risen, the wind has stopped, so the conditions are right for them. I think the next thing that we have to have is like an insect industry discussion about how we can eat the midges. Okay, thank you so much. We are going to put everything up online and just share your contacts. Thank you.